friends. In this video, I'd like to go over a little bit about the why question, because I've been seeing some conversation around that on the sort of Twitter sphere, the ever toxic Twitter sphere, and I've seen people dismiss the why of the philosophers, and I'd just sort of like to go over a little bit why it is that why matters, why it is that why is a valid question, and why dismissing the why doesn't help anybody at all. So just let's get to it. So the why of the philosophers is a concept relating to sort of a philosophical epistemology, really. Epistemology is the study of knowing things. What are the differences between knowing things and personal beliefs and justified beliefs and things of that nature? So anything that has to do with knowledge, knowledge production, and just general information about the world, all of that lies within the realm of epistemology. Now, there are different modes of knowledge production, or different kinds of epistemological systems, epistemological methods by which we come by, or by which we produce knowledge, by which we research things and come to different kinds of conclusions. And over the past, I would say, century or so, really the sort of scientific epistemology, the scientific method, has become the main form of knowledge production, to the point of actually dismissing and almost supplanting, at least in the eyes of the common folk, and especially in the eyes of scientists, other epistemological modes such as philosophy, theology. Some people would argue that theology and philosophy are, in fact, one of the same, that theology is actually a branch of philosophical thought. But that's maybe a discussion for another time. Now, often you see scientifically minded people, you see them kind of dismissing certain kinds of questions and claims about the world based on uh, this arbitrary notion of them being somehow silly or stupid, dumb questions, stupid questions that don't deserve answers. You see very prominent figureheads within the scientific community engaging in this sort of rhetoric. Richard Dawkins comes to mind as a sort of a prime culprit, and many others have engaged in this sort of rhetoric outside of him, such as Steven Pinker and to a lesser degree Sam Harris. You see scientifically minded people claiming that questions about the fundamental nature of things, or the ultimate, the final purpose, or the final meaning of things is irrelevant and stupid. You see them dismissing questions about the meaning of life. They dismiss everything that doesn't lie in the immediate sphere of empirical research, meaning things that can be shown true in a mind independent manner, things that can be measured, put into a test tube, things like that. Now, to get to the actual point I'm trying to make here, just because you can't measure something, just because you can't see something, just because you can't answer, in fact, a question by the scientific method, by measuring it, that does not mean that the question is undeserving of an answer. That does not preclude the question from being answered in the first place. In fact, I would propose to you that those very questions that are the hardest to answer, those are the ones that we ought to be focusing on the most. Questions about meaning of life and proper modes of living. What are the proper ethical modes of behavior? All these sorts of questions that philosophers have wrestled with for millennia, thousands of years, and still haven't reached any sort of conclusion on. In fact, the history of philosophy is very much questions begetting more questions, and because of that very reason, many scientific people like to dismiss philosophy as useless altogether, making outlandish claims like, oh, science has somehow supplanted philosophy, or taken its place as a sort of better epistemic mode of knowledge production. But no, Any claims of people having somehow supplanted philosophy or transcended philosophical thought are just examples of people doing philosophy in a very poor manner. So, just because your scientific worldview has serious, serious defects when it comes to answering normative questions, that does not mean that the question is not valid in the first place.